the podcast to fill my brain. Movies and Task, Reddit, Minute of Sports, betting $1 and Joel the Game, Quora and questions from real listeners, all that and more on Joel the Podcast. Bzz. Hello everybody, I'm Alex.
And I'm Alex.
And this is our podcast,
Joel.
Welcome to episode 122 of our podcast.
Wow.
Everyone, really a monumental day.
It's just
here in the life of Joel the podcast. As I said, I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex.
Hello there.
And we're just here to bring you, some joy today. How are you doing there, Alex?
I'm doing exceptionally average for a Monday. I can't say that they're the best days of the week. But it could always be worse, right?
It could, that is certainly true. And it could always be better as well.
There's literally one thing that could be happening at all times that would make your current circumstances better or worse. And that's a fact.
It reminds me of there's like a XKCD where the guy's being interviewed and he's giving like these weird answers. And one of them's like, what would you say your greatest strength is? And he says something like, there will come a day where I forget what he says. There will come a day where I'm either an ancestor to all living humans or to none of them. And then the next question is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? He goes, probably not the ancestor of all living humans, but you never know.
Wow. It would be a great podcast episode. I think we should write this one down maybe for next week. We just spend like 35 to 45 minutes describing XKCDs to each other from memory.
Wow, that sounds like a really good use of our time, yeah. And I feel like this is actually a dig on me. No one enjoyed me explaining that, is what you're saying.
This is secretly me roasting you. No, I think we could make it a competition maybe. See who remembers XKCDs, and then it's kind of like the memory game, right? Where you challenge if you don't think it's a real thing. Actually, what? Here's kind of a genuinely good idea. I just think it'd be really difficult, and we're not actually going to do it. One of us describes a potential XKCD to the other, who then has to determine whether it's a real XKCD or not.
That would be one option.
Yeah.
That'll probably be better. I thought you were gonna say one person reads the first 3 panels of an XKCD, or describes the picture, and the other person has to say what the 4th panel is or what the caption is or whatever.
Yeah, that could work. I mean, we couldn't do all the preparation necessary to pull it off well, but could work.
Yeah, and we'd be terrible at it. So, in your mind, what are some top XKCDs that just come to the top of your memory?
All right, I think there's the one. I think the ones that come to mind are the simplest, right? Where you can describe it, but then it becomes not that funny because you took so long to describe it. So what I'm talking about, the first one that I'm thinking of is the Fields by Purity XKCD, where there's the number line. And it's got
That's literally one of the first ones I thought of too.
Yeah, it's the social sciences, and then you've got chemistry, physics, and then way over is math. And that's a funny thing to look at and absorb in its entirety. But
if you remember, there's people on each part of the line. One person says as it becomes less pure, it's physics is all the way on the right, and then chemistry is just applied physics, and then it's biology is just applied chemistry. And then it gets to the end, and it's all the mathematician all the way on the right. Oh hey, I didn't even see you guys over there.
Yeah. That's a good one. Let's see. What are some other memorable ones? I feel like
one of my favorites is, sorry, this is a huge tangent. Hope our listeners know what XKCD is. One of my favorites, actually, I kind of want to pull it up right now, is the line of presidential succession one.
Uh-huh.
Are you familiar with that one?
I sort of know what it's like, yeah.
It's like a proposed list for new line of presidential succession.
Yeah.
But it's obviously comical. Hold on, I can't spell and talk at the same time, but fortunately Google knows what I'm talking about. Here's the list. Proposed line of succession: 1. President. 2. Vice President. 3. Secretary of State. 4. Secretary of Defense. 5. Secretary of Homeland Security. 6. Attorney General. 7. 5 people who do not live in Washington, D.C., nominated at the start of the president's term and confirmed by the Senate. 8. Tom Hanks. 9. State governors in descending order of population at last census. 10. Anyone who won an Oscar for playing a governor. 11. Anyone who won a governor's award for playing someone named Oscar. 12. Kate McKinnon, if available. 13. Billboard year-end Hot 100 singles artists 1 through 10. For groups, whoever is credited first in name, liner notes, etc. 14. Top 5 U.S. astronauts in descending order of total spaceflight time. 15. Serena Williams, or, if she lost her most recent match, whoever beat her. 16. The most recent season NFL, NBA, MLB, and NHL MVPs. 17. Bill Pullman and his descendants by absolute primogeniture. 18. The entire line of succession to the British throne. 19. The current champion of the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. 20. All other U.S. citizens chosen by a 29-round single elimination jousting tournament.
Wow. Yeah, it would identify somebody. It's a good one.
That was also way too long. We should probably get to the podcast. I guess we should do our sports minute.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I'm going to pull up the time. I feel like we got some feedback about where the timer is. It shouldn't be on my phone because that's too loud for everyone.
I could play it on my phone and just hold it like sort of close to the microphone. And then,
all right, go for it.
Based on feedback we get about volume, I can adjust the holding distance for next time. All right, got to turn my volume up, though, so that it does make some sound. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's begin.
Well, the MLB playoffs have started. The wild card round is in the books, so we're in the second round out of 4. Phillies are still in it. Very exciting weekend for them.
Are they good? Is it a promising postseason run here?
Hard to answer that in the time allotted, but the answer is hard to say so far. They were one of the top teams. They were one of the top teams in the regular season, but then they got crushed in the first game by a team that's worse than them.
Yeah.
And in the second game, they barely won by the skin of their teeth.
Interesting.
So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm sure we will know a lot more about their situation by the next Sports Minute.
Yep. Also, Purdue football has been terrible.
Purdue football has been very bad. It's
yeah.
We're back in the Hazel days, effectively.
Yep. They benched their quarterback, I think.
Yeah.
I read I guess it got a headline that one of their cornerbacks left the team.
That's fairly quiet. That's probably going to be acceptable.
Yeah, I could hardly hear it on my end, so we'll see if it gets picked up by your microphone.
Heard it. That was full volume. I don't understand what my timer is like, what it's doing. Well, all right.
So my phone's recording app transcribes what I'm saying, and it seems to have identified my voice as 2 different speakers.
It can't hear me, right? So it definitely is just you?
Correct. Yeah.
Is it like every other line you say, or is it just like sometimes it thinks there's a different person involved?
Yeah, it's like speaker 1, they benched their quarterback. I guess they got a headline that one of their cornerbacks left the team. Speaker 2, yeah, I could hardly hear it on my end. So we'll, speaker 1, see what gets picked up by your microphone.
Mid-sentence. What coordination.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That was all speaker one, by the way.
Very good.
All right. So that was our sports minute, and I guess that brings us to, did we get any emails this week?
You know what, we did, and this is a really interesting email. I'm gonna go ahead
Excellent.
and read it to you verbatim as I always do, with no
Sure.
pausing and interjection. This is non-editorialized, straight content here. So this is an email with the subject line, "In regards to the podcast called Joel the Podcast." This email comes to us from someone, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, called Rafael Fernandez Lopez de Oliveira. I definitely pronounced that wrong. Sorry about that. The email reads, "WTF is this podcast? YouTube recommended me an episode of this podcast. What the fuck is this podcast? Why is it called Joel? Who are Alex and Alex? Please explain to the folks at home what the H this podcast is supposed to be. Thank you, comma." End of email.
Wow. I never thought I'd see the day, but we have made it. We have made it. YouTube recommended our podcast to someone.
We received an email from a random listener who stumbled upon us, hopefully has been converted into a lifelong fan. So I hope you're listening to this. Let's walk through these questions.
Okay, yeah, and then after that, I have so many questions I want to ask if this person is still listening.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's go through the questions first, though.
All right. So first question. Actually, most of these are questions. So first question is, WTF is this podcast?
Okay. Well, it's a podcast, first of all, I guess. And Alex, well, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's two friends, Alex and Alex. Although one of them's not really named Alex, as you may have deduced by listening to the podcast.
Right, it's him.
That was just like a joke that we came up with in our first episode and have clung on to ever since then.
Right.
Sort of.
I
mean, there was like there was a brief period where we tried to like only refer to each other and everyone in the podcast as Alex. Mm-hmm. But I think we gave up on that pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of a bit. We're just like not good at it.
Right. Well, I mean, at least I don't ever try to refer to you as Alex anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think to me, it's just a bit contained in the intro and outro at this point. So, yeah. So anyway, the podcast is just us doing things that we think are funny. That's what the podcast is.
Yeah.
And fun for us to do.
I would agree with literally everything you said there. I don't think I really have much to add.
Yeah, I guess that was bad podcasting by me. I should have left some for you to say. You can answer the next question.
All right. Well, the next question is actually, YouTube recommended me an episode of this podcast. What the fuck is this podcast?
So you can answer that one.
Yeah. So this podcast is really, I guess we'll start. It's like two friends, just kind of like having a conversation, chatting about stuff.
Right.
We're doing things that, we think we're kind of trying to have fun, do things that we think are funny. We kind of have this bit where we're both called Alex, even though only one of us is actually called Alex.
Right.
And it's kind of like over the years that's sort of changed a bit, and I don't know, we've kind of gotten away from that. I think it's really just an intro and outro thing at this point.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a really good summary.
Yeah. Anything I missed?
I can't think of any single thing to add. That was pretty much comprehensive.
Perfect. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Can I ask you? So that question said, "What the fuck is this podcast?" Right?
Correct.
And later he said, "What the H is this podcast?"
That's my favorite part of the whole email. I really want to know a whole lot more about the mindset of writing. The thing I want to know most, actually, if there's one thing I can get
Okay, hold on. Be careful, because actually I want to know. Like, you tell me what is the number one thing you want to know. You want to ask what Francisco or whatever this guy's name is, and I will tell you the number one thing. I mean, I want to ask him so many
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
but like, let me know. This better be real though. Like, what is the one thing that you want to ask him?
Okay, seriously, genuinely, this is my actual real opinion. I want to know which episode did you listen to that made you
Oh, that's a good
email us?
one.
Like, what actually motivated you?
That's a good question. Yeah. My question that I want to know is what other things were you watching on YouTube
Ooh.
that led to this podcast being recommended to you?
That's also a really good question. I would love to know.
Like, I have to assume he was listening to like other podcasts because I can't imagine what else would, like, our podcast isn't related to anything besides podcasts.
Right.
So
There's no like overarching theme, right? Unless there's like some other podcast out there that answers Quora questions or something.
So, all right. So that answers that question. So what's the third question?
The third question is, why is it called Joel?
Good question. We had a friend named still have. He still talks to us sometimes. A friend named Joel. And when we were in college, I had like a bit where I would just name everything Joel, like as a joke. And to kind of get it, you kind of got to know Joel. And actually, Joel has been on, I believe, 3 episodes of this podcast.
At least,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So you've gotten to know him too if you've listened to this entire podcast. But if you just listened to one episode, it's unlikely that Joel was on that episode.
Right.
So, but anyway, we made the first episode as a joke. And I called it Joel just as a joke, and then that stuck. So That's why it's called Joel. All right, next question.
Next question is, who are Alex and Alex?
You got
this
this
I'll
one.
take a stab at this first. So I'm Alex, and this is Alex.
Right, and he's pointing at me just for those who can't see.
Right, yeah, of course. And so, we're just, like, both in podcast persona, very Alex-like. And so I think... And I don't correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't remember why we started that bit. I don't know if there was any like reasoning behind it.
There wasn't really much reasoning behind it. I just felt like actually I remember discussing like whether it felt more natural to say Alex and Nathan or Nathan and Alex. Do you remember discussing that?
I remember that being a topic of discussion at the bowling alley. You're right. So it must have been a product of that where we just said instead of deciding, we're just going to say Alex and Alex.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it was like the joke was like it was funny to us because our names aren't Alex and Alex.
Right.
Like if you didn't know that our names weren't Alex and Alex, you would have just been like, "Oh, it's just 2 people named Alex. That's weird."
Yeah, but it's actually hilarious
I guess
because we're not both Alex.
Right, exactly. So I guess it's just a bad joke, honestly. But it's so I really thought you were just gonna be like, "Who are Alex and Alex?" They're 2 friends, and they just talk about.
Yeah, who are Alex and Alex? That's actually a really deep question.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the real answer.
Yeah, someday we'll make an episode called "Who Are Alex and Alex," and we'll each get 30 minutes to monologue about ourselves, and that'll be the whole episode. That's all we'll do.
Yeah.
If you want to hear
next question.
Email us for sure.
Oh yeah, send us. And how can they send us an email if they want to?
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly it was apparent from our episodes in the past because this person has sent us an email just based on listening. But if you haven't heard any of our episodes before, all you need to do...
Like YouTube recommended this episode to you for some reason.
YouTube just randomly recommended you this episode, and you want to ask us a question that we didn't just answer, you can email us by going to our website, which is alexandalex@joelthepodcast.github.io/alexandalex@joelthepodcast.website/index.html. And once you're there, just go ahead and click on some stuff until a window pops open that has the little, email stuff in it. and write your email to us and send it to us. We'll talk about it live on the podcast.
Yeah, pretty exciting. All right, next question.
Oh, and actually, I think we've said this less frequently recently, but we do appreciate when we receive emails that all of the subject lines of the emails are "I am a dumbass." It just helps us really like relate to you as an email writer.
Right, because we're dumbasses.
Yeah. So I don't remember the origin of that one. It's in a past episode if you care to go find it, but it really helps us out, you know?
I think it was because David was saying something incorrect, or like that I thought was incorrect.
Yeah.
Like I don't. Maybe it was related to one of us owing the other one $1 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Speaking of which, you owe me $2. I think
that's not true. We determined in the last episode that your wedding gift to me was forgiveness of that debt.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay, so you do not owe me $2.
We've got to make some new bets so that there is some dollars owed.
Right. Okay, but yes. So that's why I think it was some reason like that why we asked for that subject line, and then David has just continued to send us emails with that subject line.
Right. And it's very funny.
All right.
We appreciate that. So just a heads up for any potential future emailers. Anyway, the last question of this email is not really a question. It just says, please explain to the folks at home what the H this podcast is supposed to be. That's capital H, by the way. But I mean, we can probably answer that.
I mean, I think that we've kind of answered it already.
Yeah,
it's just like two friends, just having a good time.
Yep.
Like every bad podcast out there. We just do things that we think are funny and are fun for us to do.
Feel free to.
And recently, that is. Go ahead.
It's just if you've got better ideas for what we should make this podcast, go ahead and email it to us.
What would be funny for us to do? Recently, that has involved a game we made up, and making up advice and then or questions and then answering them. Coming up with like short stories based on a prompt. Coming up with top 10 lists. So it's kind of like our standard repertoire, if you will, and we've done lots of less interesting things over the course of our time doing this podcast.
Yeah, and we've got like 2 or 3 real gems out there if you go digging. So
we do. That's true.
We'd recommend. And if you're short on time, I'm pretty sure we've released at least 1 or 2 like compilation episodes where we pulled some of our best moments.
1 or 2. That's right. And we also have our commercial that you can watch.
That's a good
and our sketch that you can watch.
Yeah.
So those are good starting spots if you are unfamiliar with our podcast. Although I feel like watching either of those first really gets your hopes up for what we have, and it's really the rest of it is worse than that.
Yeah, it's
so that's unfortunate.
Very misleading to what the rest of the product is actually going to be.
So just like going with a grain of salt, I guess, is what I would say. Although if you're listening to this, you've probably listened to an episode, or at least will have soon listened to an episode of our podcast. You kind of know what we're about.
Right.
Like what an episode of our podcast is like. All right. Wow. Okay. So now that we've gotten through that email, first of all, thank you. Can you say the person's name again?
Let me try this again. Rafael Fernandez Lopez de Oliveira.
Wow, now I feel really racist for saying Francisco or whatever his name is. I legitimately thought that's what his name was from what you said before.
Yeah, that is not quite correct.
I apologize, Rafael, for saying that. But thank you so much for sending us this email. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you're listening to this. And send us an email if you are, and let us know.
Yeah, we would absolutely love to hear from you again, especially with the answers to our questions previously. But genuinely, just whatever.
Well, and I wanna like add I'll like at least 5 more questions.
All right.
So my first question. Okay, so we've established you want to know what episode was he listening to. I want to know like what was he watching. What else was he watching on YouTube that he got recommended. I would say my next question is: did you listen to a full episode of our podcast?
Yeah, did you
If
get
so,
all the way
that is
through?
dedication. Like, he just like listened to a full hour. So, like, he obviously listened to like, I don't know, how long does it usually take us to say our? It usually takes us like 10, 15 minutes maybe to say our email or our website.
I think the biggest problem with that assumption is that the description of every video is just immediately a link to our website.
Okay.
So you could
So maybe you didn't listen to any of our episodes.
right, you could get there, you could just see the link, you could go there, and then pretty obvious, of course, once you get there, how to email us.
And actually, if you're on YouTube and you want to know, like, one of the questions was like, who are Alex and Alex? It's right on the videos. Every single one, it's us, Alex and Alex.
That's true. That is a real picture of us. So.
Yep.
And if you want to put a name to the face, let me make sure I get this right. I think I'm on the left of the image.
You are on the left of the image, yeah, as you look at it.
Yeah. Also, not at all a name to the face, a face to the voice, right? That's what I meant.
Yeah. And so I'm also looking at our podcast, like our YouTube channel description actually has our email directly on there.
Oh, that's kind
in
of
addition to our website.
Our email is just so much more complicated than our website. We shouldn't be asking people to use that email. Wow. Let me click this customized channel real quick and edit that out.
So anyway, maybe he didn't even open one of our videos. He just went to the channel description.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that was one thing I wanted to know. Did you even watch one of our videos? If you did listen to one of our episodes, like, what did you think? I mean, every single other person that has listened to our episode before you has known one or both of us. So I guess my question is, like, what was your experience as just like a random stranger who listened to our episode? Was it entertaining? Was it boring? What did you like? What did you not like? So be interested to know that.
Yeah, we have an opportunity, a rare opportunity for an unbiased view.
Right. You know how we've talked about before that, like, random episodes of ours will have more views than others?
Yeah.
It must be because those episodes are getting recommended by the algorithm.
You're probably
or something like that.
Probably right, yeah, because if it's just the people that we know listen, there'd be like 3 or 4 views per video.
Right. And I'm looking, by the way, Joel the podcast, episode 120, 84 views.
84?
Of course, that's the wedding one, so maybe, like, people from the wedding found out about it because I said it at the wedding.
Maybe.
Or something.
It could be.
Although this obviously, it wasn't posted until after the wedding, some amount of time after the wedding.
Yeah.
It's also... But anyway, 84 views is pretty crazy.
What we should do... Well, I don't know.
By the way, our commercial, 86 views. It is 2 fewer views than our commercial.
Wow. I mean, for an hour-long video compared to like a 2-minute video, that's kind of ludicrous. 84 views?
That's true, but we don't know if, like, I don't know how YouTube counts views, but I don't know that means that 84, it was watched through for 84 times.
84 times. Yeah, I mean, probably not, right? Like, I can't imagine it takes the full video before YouTube counts it as a view.
Joel the Sketch, 42 views. So it has twice as many views as Joel the Podcast The Sketch.
That's crazy. Okay, so according to Herdat Marketing, YouTube counts a view when a user clicks play and watches for at least 30 seconds. Repeat views count, but spam or bot views don't. I don't know how that's true, but wait. Views may appear stuck at 301 to filter out bots. I don't know what that
means. You've never heard that before?
I thought that was like a really old YouTube thing. Like 15 years ago YouTube.
Uh-huh. Hold on, there's a relevant XKCD since we were talking about XKCD.
All right, describe it to me.
I'll share the screen, but I'll describe it to the listeners. So it's like a bunch of people in a dark room with a video playing on the wall. Then it's settled. We, the 300 members of the Secret Council, decree that this video meets our standards and shall go viral. Send it to one of our agents to be leaked to the common folk. Someone else says, some of them are noticing the number. The guy says, add a plus sign to throw them off. The guy says, very well. Soon, just a guy at his computer. Ooh, check out this great video I found. Click. And then it zooms in on the number view counter in the bottom right. It says 301 plus. So,
very relevant.
Anyway, and the title text says, and hypnotize someone into thinking they've uploaded it and passed it around. But then won't the uploader get suspicious that it pauses at 301 plus for a while? Why don't we just forge the number entirely? Blam! The Council of 299 is adjourned. Alright, cool. So, oh, you were reading that about that? I forget how we originally started talking about this.
Oh, so we were talking about the views on each video, and I was gonna say before.
Oh, why do we have 84 views on this one video?
Right, I was gonna say before we got sidetracked is, I wonder if we could title an episode something kind of like viral-ish.
Something like you won't believe who wins Joel the game bracket clickbait.
Yeah, I'm thinking like if I go to the YouTube home.
Right.
Maybe this is a bad because I think the only thing I've ever watched on this channel is like alien conspiracy theory videos to see if we could get it to give me weird recommendations.
And Joel the Afro podcast.
And Joel the Afro podcast, and probably a few episodes of our own thing as I click.
Well, you can go to YouTube's like just generic homepage. That's unrelated to what you've watched.
How do you do that?
I know how to do it on the app. Let's see if I can figure out how to do it on here.
Oh, I could go to like trending.
Yeah, trending. Where do you see that?
It's just on the left bar under explore, kind of like 2/3 the way down.
Left bar under explore. Well, I don't really see that, but oh well. Doesn't matter.
For a second, I was like, all of the videos on trending are by this channel called Kermudge in Alaska. There's like 6 of them in a row, but that's because that's like a channel highlight, and they're just showing several of their videos. Okay, so trending, we've got what actually happened in Asheville, a Hurricane Helene story. There's an SEC Shorts video about Vanderbilt beating Alabama in football, which is kind of wild. We didn't get to that in the Sports Minute.
I didn't even know that happened.
VP debate.
Oh, here we go,
SNL.
trending.
Okay, so here's what we do. We title the episode like Election 2024. That way when people Google that, or not Google it, but search it on YouTube, right? Then our video maybe gets recommended and we'll get like 1,000 views on it. And then that'll be the catalyst. Because clearly once people start watching and realize that it's not about the election, they'll be hooked anyway. And they'll start listening to our other content. We will skyrocket.
If you're listening and you were hoping to listen to an episode about the election, welcome.
All right, let's really quick and in a very non-biased way talk quickly about our election analysis. We both interestingly live in swing states, different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely know people, family, friends who are voting for both candidates.
Yeah.
So definitely swing state vibes.
Yeah. I think that's true of me as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how I think all the polls are really, really close in both of our states.
Yeah, and I'm definitely seeing a lot more like yard signs and stuff.
Yeah.
As we get close to the election.
Yeah.
Not more commercials, since the amount of commercials has been a lot for a long time. Um,
No, I want to
but
go into slight detail. Although we've been very very fair and balanced so far, I am going to name a candidate in this story. So this is not an endorsement. This is not legal advice. However,
we're not legal experts. This is medical advice,
yes,
though.
this is if you are sick on your way to the polls, please consider this medical advice. But I just this
We are doctors.
this has all just made me think of how I've been getting in the mail, because obviously it's a swing state. We're getting lots of election related stuff for the various candidates. But I think the funniest one is the mail that we get that's related to Trump. Not at all about like the content of the flyer or like the information provided in any way. It's just that because we'll get several, there will be days where we'll get several flyers at once. They'll all be different. And one of them will be addressed to me, and one of them will be addressed to Shelby, and one of them will be addressed to Shelby and the previous resident of our apartment. And it's bizarre because
Nice.
it's like consistently those groupings. It'll be like, me or like the Shelby household or whatever. And then just, yeah, they don't know who lives here. That's the fun bit.
I'll share one slightly interesting tidbit. Is I've seen a few signs. I've seen a couple signs in this style. They're all Trump signs, where they've reduced electioneering to like the most basic possible message. It just says something like Trump, low prices, Kamala, high prices, and that's the whole sign. Or like Trump, safety, Kamala, crime, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, this is really what we've been reduced to.
I was going to say, we're getting dangerously close to providing like legitimate election insight, which is not the goal of this podcast. And I'm realizing 40 minutes in on my recording here, but
no way. 36
Yeah.
minutes? That is insane. Oh my gosh.
It's kind of ludicrous to me. I'll say this and then we should really move on because we've got an actual thing
Oh
to
my
do.
gosh.
But it is really, really, in one way interesting, but in another way just kind of deeply disappointing how simple the messaging is on both sides about just like the absolute disaster of what the other's presidency would be and how, they're the only reasonable choice. And, this is dangerously close to political opinion here, but I don't think that's a good thing.
I like how you keep saying it's dangerously close to a political opinion when it's actually not at all close to a political opinion.
Look, I don't want to get political here, but I really think that the messaging is off the rails on both sides.
I don't want to get political here, but I'm against crime. All right.
Let's do the rest of the episode now.
If you are still listening to this episode, wow, like props to you. I cannot believe it's been 38 minutes. That's insane.
Yeah, we called this election 2024 as a joke, and then actually talked about that for a while. Embarrassing.
No, we only talked about the election for like 5 minutes. We talked for probably 25 minutes about this email we received.
I mean, it wasn't monumental.
And like 10 minutes about XKCD.
That's fair enough.
So, all right, let's get into it today. We went back to episode. What was the episode number?
92. Is that what you're thinking of?
92?
Yeah.
Yes, 92. So we were looking at our old advice questions that had been sent to us from previous advice episodes because they're quite funny and we didn't remember any of them. So it was really funny to read them again. And episode 91 was an episode we did where we did advice. But episode 92, we just had a document that was titled problems. And so we were like, what is this? So we went back and by we, I mean Nathan went back and listened to the episode and couldn't figure it out. So we eventually figured out that we had basically come up with problems and then tried to, like, in the episode, make inventions that solved those problems. And I think that's a pretty neat idea. I think it's kind of sad that we lost that idea. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to do that again today. So we've come up with some problems that could potentially be solved by inventions, and we're going to go through them and see what we can come up with on the fly.
Absolutely.
So, no further introduction needed. Why don't you pick one of these problems and read it, and we'll get going.
All right, well...
Oh, I guess my phone's really far. Hopefully everyone could hear that.
Yeah. It's just like the first 40 minutes of the episode is like vague mumbling from your end.
Yep. It was all transcribed. Now I move around when we're doing the podcast, so as I move from side to side, I have to keep moving my phone. Anyway, all right,
Let's
ahead.
Go. Sometimes when I disassemble Oreos, some of the cream sticks to each cookie instead of all coming off on one side. How can I perfectly separate Oreos?
Well, so my first thought on this is that I don't separate the Oreos.
Really?
Yeah, obviously we're going to come up with an invention to separate them, but to me, the best thing about an Oreo is the combination of the chocolate and the cream. So I really enjoy just eating an Oreo like as it originally comes, with the cream inside 2 chocolate cookies, and which I know is not always popular. And furthermore, this, like, the way that I like it also leads to the unpopular opinion that I like normal single stuff Oreos better than double stuff Oreos.
Yeah.
Because I like the ratio of the cream to the chocolate in the original Oreo better.
Yeah. I cannot get behind you there. I mean, obviously double stuff Oreos are peak Oreo. Really doesn't get better than that. And yeah, I guess I will say in introduction maybe that my I would be a more credible source on this problem then, because I do separate my double stuff Oreos. In fact, to have ideally one essentially plain chocolate cookie, and then another that is the other cookie with all of the icing, and that ratio is quite good.
So let me ask you about the problem statement here. Yeah. So are we looking for an invention where you have an Oreo and you want to separate it? Or are we looking for an invention like that is used in the creation of Oreos that makes them easier to perfectly be separated, or something like that?
That's interesting. I guess we could look at this question both ways, right? Like, it could be that this person is a Oreo factory worker who, you know, post Oreo assembly is disassembling them to put in the half Oreo packages. I don't know if that exists, but it probably does, right?
I mean, I've never heard of that.
And if it is that, well, you know, and I've never heard of it either. So maybe we're skeptical that this is the true case. But if it is that, wouldn't the solution just be to not put the Oreo together in the first place?
Yes, but I'm thinking more along the lines of there's a worker at the factory who says, hey, I know most people that eat Oreos like to separate them, but I'm required to put them together by Nabisco or whoever owns Oreos.
Uh-huh.
So
Nabisco. Good guess.
What can I do to make it easier for the end user to separate the Oreos without actually separating them myself?
Oh, I see. So you're saying, like, what can you do in the assembly process to facilitate, you know, like the perforation of the Oreo world? What would that be?
Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm thinking, like, the easiest thing that I can think of would just be to have, like, a, like, 1 atom thick, like, circle of something edible.
Right.
I don't really know what that would be. Maybe, honestly, you might just be able to have, like, carbon or something, since it's such a small amount.
Actually, so I don't mean to interrupt, but actually this is a really interesting science fact. I think this is worth sharing for the listeners. When something is 1 atom thick, it actually doesn't matter what it is. It's always edible. Yeah.
Wow, what a fun
Yeah.
fact. So let's make it uranium
It's a good
then.
idea.
Something radioactive to give you a little kick.
Then you'll be able to
So
see a
and just
slight glow on the side that you're supposed to pull apart.
oh, that's such a good feature that I didn't even think
Yeah.
of. Um, yeah. So let's just have like a little thin sheet of your 1 atom thick sheet of uranium in between the cookie and the cream on one side.
Great. I'm liking this
What's
so
your
far.
thought on that? Okay. What's another idea for in the
All
factory?
right, for in the factory, I think one thing you might be able to do is this would I think require maybe a slight reworking of the assembly line, like the order might need to be changed a bit. But my thought is, what if you tried to put two cookies down before you put the icing so that it went into the package the width of an Oreo, but the other cookie wasn't actually stuck to the icing? I'm doing some hand uh, motions to kind of explain.
I'll be honest with the listeners, the hand motions do not help me understand what he's talking about.
All right, so like, look, you got cookie, cream, cookie, right?
Right, that is an
I'm
Oreo.
saying what you need to do is cookie, cookie, and then you're gonna have to imagine the cream on top because I'm out of hands.
You're putting the cream on top of one of the cookies.
On top of both of the cookies,
but not right, so not in between the cookies anymore.
Yeah, your end result.
So I feel like that kind of he's got his phone just sitting on top of his two hands for the listeners. I feel like that kind of breaks the rules. Like, to me, if you're allowed to change like what's being packaged and sent out, like you may as well just send them separated, like you said before. So,
That's
like,
a
in my
fair
mind,
point.
it still has to be the same construction that you get today.
In that case, then
I would say another idea is you could have like these little like blowers attached to the bottom cookie that just like constantly blow air in between the top cookie and the cream.
so it'd be like an air hockey table.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Okay.
And they just be like clipped on to the bottom cookie.
Right.
Yeah, like really small, like maybe like an inch tall or something like that, or less.
So here's another idea. Here's maybe a better idea, because I see where you're coming from with the structure of the cookie. You know how a Hershey's Kiss is wrapped in foil, but it has that little like paper tag sticking out, so that you can just pull on that and it'll open up.
Sure.
All you need to do is have like, because obviously an Oreo is a bit bigger than a Hershey's Kiss, so you probably have like 5 or 6 little paper tags sticking out. And then if you and all of your friends were to pull on them simultaneously, the friction from them coming straight out between the cookies and the cream would almost like, you know how when you have a skate on ice, you like liquefy a little bit and it becomes really slippery. You'd be doing that like with the cream in enough places that they would just like the bottom cookie with the cream would just fall right off.
Or just fall off. That's a good one. You need 6 friends to do it, but but that's a good idea. Okay, here's an idea, and bear with me because the beginning's gonna sound like you're not gonna know where it's going. You know how like boxes of like the big boxes of crayons come with their own crayon sharpener in the back?
Absolutely, I know that. Yeah.
Okay, so Oreo packages should come with like a slicing mechanism that's like pre-calibrated for the size of an Oreo, so the blade's at like the exact proper height. You just stick the Oreo in there, slice like one of those deli slicers almost, but like self-contained within the package.
So this is like the post-factory home solution now.
Yes, but it's made at the factory because it's part of the packaging.
Sure, sanctioned
so it's
by
like
Oreo still.
Right.
Very, very legal.
So yes, so that's one option, and I think we should start moving in the direction of considering okay, let's say Nabisco has no interest in implementing any of these
Right.
items. What can I, as a consumer, do to solve this
Yeah.
problem?
So I think the best way, the first thing that comes to mind for me at least, is that, and this requires, well, no, not really. Let's just say as long as you have a door in your house, this will work. So I'll describe it with a door. You could obviously do this with a bit of wall that comes out kind of at a 90-degree angle where you've got a corner exposed. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna try and describe this as best I can. But what you do is you open the door so you're facing just the edge of the door, and you hold the Oreo, kind of like a, you know how when you like flick a playing card and you can like frisbee it, and it'll stick into fruits and stuff. You can like throw cards through.
Yeah, I can't do that, but I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So what I'm imagining is you take the Oreo and you throw it at the very corner of the edge of the door so that one cookie perfectly strikes the edge and halts in place right there, and the other cookie with the cream slides off and presumably, attaches itself to the door or something. Maybe it falls to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what would happen. Um,
Sure. So this is less of like a product you've invented and more of like a
a
method you've
technique.
invented.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, technique,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good. Although it sounds kind of hard.
I think once you practice it, you'd probably be surprised how easy it is.
Okay. All right.
Plus, if your door
And
is thin
now,
enough, you could do the same technique, but separate both cookies off and be left with just a blob of icing stuck to the edge. Which, yeah, maybe people
sure,
like that.
sure.
I don't know.
And if you get really good, like what you really can do then is if you have a friend or someone that you live
Mm-hmm.
with, they can lay on the ground right where the cookie's gonna
Ooh,
fall after it hits the
that's good.
door. So you can like feed them by doing
Right.
that. And if you have a third person, they can be wherever I mean, maybe the cream side would get stuck to the door, so you just take that off.
Right.
But if that does fall to the ground, you can have someone else in place to catch that with their mouth.
I think probably the best part of this is that all of this can double as like a home defense mechanism if required. I'm pretty sure if you threw an Oreo hard enough at somebody, they would be forced to stop their break in and retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. Um, all right, I think we've thoroughly covered this Oreo question. Would you like to move on?
Yeah, hit me with one.
All right, here we go. My microwave keeps beeping. Can you come up with an invention to solve this?
Absolutely, I can. If you've got a pack of Oreos, you're
Uh
just
huh.
going to want to take all of the cream out and jam it into the speaker. I actually did this with an old car that I used to have that did the same thing because you didn't, when you don't put your seatbelt on, it beeps at you. So what I did was I
Sure.
just jammed, and it was actually, interestingly enough, the cookie part and not the cream part, but I'm pretty sure the cream part would work. I
Interesting.
just jammed that down
Sure.
into the seatbelt slot until the car stopped beeping.
I thought you were gonna say the speakers.
Well, I mean, yeah, you just stick the cream or the cookie, probably either works fine, into the microwave equivalent of a seatbelt slot, and I'm sure the beeping will stop.
That's interesting. Um, okay, so that's certainly one idea. Um, my thought was you could put like some aluminum foil and like a bunch of matches and like some fireworks into your microwave
Mm-hmm.
and then just start it
Mm-hmm.
and like I think it's highly likely that after that it would not beep anymore.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've heard that, like if you put in silverware, also like forks in particular with kind of the points, the sharp points. If you
Uh-huh.
microwave those for long enough, that can help with the beeping. Um,
Mhm.
I've never actually tried this, but apparently, if you microwave light bulbs, that can be really helpful with this.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay, here's another option. You know how when it's cold out, some people will wear like gloves, but for their ears.
Like scarves?
Yeah, but for your ears.
Hmm. Like socks?
Yeah, ear socks. That's probably right. Um,
Hmm.
it doesn't directly help with the microwave beeping, so I guess it depends on why you don't like the microwave beeping. But if you put on your ear socks while you use the microwave, you might not be able to hear the beeping. So I know that might be kind of unusual because it's not cold out, probably.
So the ear socks like prevent you from hearing?
Yeah, so whenever I put on ear socks, I can't hear as well. Although
Do they have some name besides ear socks? That sounds wrong.
ear gloves, maybe? That's what I was thinking of at first.
Ear glove. I feel like ear mitts sounds
Ear
right.
mitts? I think
Or maybe earlings.
ear mitts are when it's like the baseball version is ear mitts, right?
What's the baseball
When you,
version?
the version you wear when you play baseball.
Oh, I didn't
You've
know
got
about
your
that. When I played baseball, I wore a mitt on my hand.
hmm.
Did you wear one on each ear?
No, just one ear because you've got to use the other one to throw.
You can throw with your ear?
Yeah, you just like move your arm and your ear at the end throws the ball.
Huh. That's so weird. For me, like, I just use my hand for that.
It doesn't that like hurt your neck? What are you doing? Like whipping your head around?
No, your head just stays still. Oh, no, I see what's going on. Okay. Oh, microwave beeping. What's another solution for your microwave beeping? I've actually heard that, I've never tried this, but that microwave manufacturers are required by law to put like a back door into their software so that like if you press the right sequence of buttons, like the microwave, just the beeping stops, so it's like a muted version of the microwave. Um, so that might be one option if you could like kidnap a microwave developer
Right.
and get them to tell you, or kidnap their wife or something. Get them to tell you the sequence.
So your invention is just kidnapping someone and making them do it for you.
Yeah, it's more like a technique.
All right, you know what? Fair enough. That is absolutely. Um, I have to imagine if you were to take the like control panel off of a microwave, even without the help of a microwave engineer, there's got to be some device that you could create that if you just like laid it on top of the control board in just the right way, it would simulate the button presses, right? So that's
Probably.
that's an alternative. Although you might need to kidnap the microwave engineer to help you design such a device.
Sure, I mean, you might just want to kidnap the engineer for fun. Like, honestly, if you just feel like it, go ahead.
Yeah. Maybe your microwave doesn't even beep. Maybe you already solved this problem and you just
I
like
yeah.
hanging out with microwave engineers.
I think microwave manufacturing companies have like specific funds devoted to paying ransom of microwave engineers who get kidnapped.
Yeah, I've always heard that it's like foreign dignitaries, famous what am I trying to say? Like celebrities and stuff
Microwave
who
manufacturer.
travel internationally, and microwave manufacturers. Those are the three people that are most
Well, microwave
microwave
developers.
developers. You're right. Are most often kidnapped for ransom because of the well-known funds supporting their
Sure.
ransom. So
Indeed.
yeah, very very interesting
Um,
tidbit there of microwave lore.
Indeed. All right, why don't you hit us with another problem statement for an invention.
All right. When my roommate comes home, she always leaves her shoes in the middle of the floor, and I trip over them during my night walks. How can I ensure her shoes stay firmly attached to her feet at all times?
It's a good question, and I will first of all say there are a lot of good inventions for this already, such as super glue, or like C clamps.
Ooh, that's a really good one, actually.
Or nails.
Nails, yeah.
That one's a little bit, like maybe Roman.
What were you imagining? I was imagining taking a box of nails and like welding a cage out of them around her feet to trap the shoes in. Were you thinking of something different?
I was thinking of sandals made of nails.
Ooh. Sounds pretty uncomfortable, actually. But I suppose
Yeah, probably a lot less.
They wouldn't have the flex to be removed, right? If they're made of nails. So.
Yeah, I was probably a lot less comfortable than the actual nails worn by Romans. Right. Did I say actual nails? Actual sandals worn by Romans. Let me look at my transcript. Yep, I said the actual nails worn by Romans.
Wow.
By the way, we're up to speaker 4 now.
Really?
There's 4 people here.
That's interesting.
Okay, so those are some existing options. What's like an invention that we could come up with that would keep it attached?
All right, so what I'm imagining, this certainly would need to be invented because I don't think there's anything like it right now. You know how magnets stick to other magnets? So what you need to do is make the shoes out of magnets but for feet.
Interesting.
And if you
you definitely have to invent that.
If you make it powerful enough, like maybe it'll need some kind of external power supply or something. I don't know exactly how this would work. But I have to imagine if you make it powerful enough, your roommate just won't be strong enough to remove them. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's probably true. I have kind of this idea is probably a little out there, so feel free to just tell me if you don't think this is feasible. But I'm thinking of like kind of like strings that you like put holes in the shoe and you put the string through the holes and you kind of like tie a knot out of the string and that like tightens the shoe around the foot so it can't come out.
That's really interesting. I feel like I've heard of something similar to that before. Is that like
You're probably thinking of shoe chains.
Yeah, you're right. Shoe chains where you instead of taking your shoe on and off, as you walk several times because the shoe doesn't stay on very well, you actually just chain them to like, your mid shin, I suppose, depending on the length of the chain, right?
Right.
But it just helps them stay on a little better.
Yeah, so this is definitely a little different though because it's not attached to the shoe. I'll just call it the shoe string.
Sure.
The shoe string is not attached to any like part of you. It just kind of like wraps the shoe tighter around your foot, essentially.
So is that why it's called a string instead of a chain?
Well, also because it's a string and not a chain.
Oh, okay. So is it just a coincidence then that chains always attach shoes to people and strings always attach things to themselves?
I literally don't even understand that question.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense. I always thought just like the Latin base of the word chain was just like the essence of connecting shoes to people, right? Like back in the day.
Did you take Latin?
I knew somebody who took Latin. That's what they always told me.
Okay. Was it me?
It was not you. I don't think you would tell me something like that. You seem very confused by this concept.
Yeah, well, I guess I didn't learn the Latin word for chain when I was taking Latin. So, I'm not educated enough about this subject. Okay, so I guess the shoestrings would be one other option.
Yeah, a little
Um,
out there, but I could see it working.
yeah, well, we're just throwing out ideas here,
Yeah,
right? Probably goes along with the foot magnet or whatever.
yeah. So another way, we're thinking about this in terms of like shoe attachment. But another thing you could do is design some kind of like hat that she would wear, right?
Hmm.
Where if she ever reaches to take her shoes off, it would cover her eyes automatically.
That that is a good idea. However, it might be possible for her to take her shoes off without being able to see them.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you were just talking a minute ago about how like naturally shoes oftentimes don't have any way of staying on and they just fall off as you're walking. So like, what if that happened? You wouldn't need to be able to see to not put them back on.
Well, I guess you'd have to have some kind of sensor then on the shoe to detect if it had come off, because that could also trigger the like eye covering, at which point she would
Right.
stop and you could either you yourself could put the shoe back on her, but I mean that's kind of a lot of work, so there's probably some third mechanism then that retrieves and puts on the shoe, possibly some kind of like
No, I
robotic
think
arm.
here's what it is. So it's what you said, where it's like a thing that like covers her eyes. Just really, honestly, anytime she's not wearing the shoe for any
Right.
reason. So it's like that's like the incentive for her to keep the shoes
Right.
on, and then you put like a really loud alarm on the shoes
Ah,
that goes off when they're not on the
Uh-huh.
foot. Because A, it's really annoying and you want to put the shoes back on to turn the alarm off. But also B, you can't see, but the alarm helps you like know where the shoes are,
right.
so that you can go put them
Right.
on.
So you'll know which way you need to go in order to make it stop. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. I think we got there in the end, you know? I think we took a couple iterations.
Yeah, I think that's probably the simplest
but that's the
solution.
best one.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we do one more? We're in hour 6 here. Pick your favorite of the remaining potential problems, and we will attack it with all of our invention prowess.
Yeah, let's keep going in order. I think that next one looks good.
Are you talking about?
No.
Okay.
Can't.
All right.
There we go.
Here we go. This one says, chewing gum is enjoyable, but it's a lot of work. Can you make some invention to make this easier for me? And by this, I assume they mean chewing the gum. Doesn't quite explicitly say that, but
So I do have one
Yeah, so-
clarifying question here.
go ahead.
When they say chewing the gum, do you think that inherently means that the gum is like in their mouth and you're trying to move their jaw? Or is the idea just to like squish some gum?
No, I am. In my mind, it's the
Okay.
former. Like they enjoy having the gum in their mouth and they enjoy
Sure.
chewing it, but maybe they just get like exhausted doing the chewing,
Okay.
so they need some invention to make it either easier or do it for them or something
Sure.
like that.
I mean, just in case it's the other way, I think you're probably right that it's not. But I'm imagining two like counter-rotating drill bits that just really efficiently kind of like grind the gum.
I think there's plenty of inventions that could just absolutely grind, or like one of those things that like pounds down, like just absolutely flatten
Yeah.
that gum. There's definitely plenty of existing inventions for that. Honestly, for me, like it's like the obvious answer, but like some contraption that's attached to your
Yeah.
head, and you could literally have a crank that's like rotational motion converted, like a train, like like a train wheel that just makes it go up
Sure.
and down your jaw, like a piece under your jaw, go up and down.
Yeah, it'd almost be
Um,
like bike pedals, right? Where you just do this and then the other side is kind of
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Wait, in what way is that like bike pedals?
Well, there's like the two rotating sides, right? And you're kind of like pushing up and down, but it's rotating the wheel. I'm kind of imagining that working backwards, and kind of a little bit different, like less rotational on the pedals, and more just the linear motion.
I was gonna say bike pedals just go in a circle, and then that translates to the wheels going in a circle, so it's not quite the same.
All right, so my invention is kind of like your invention, except instead of having a hand crank, you pedal it like a bike.
My invention is just like yours. It's actually just like my original invention, except instead of turning a crank, you just like move a handle up and down.
My invention is just like yours, except you grab your own jaw and move it up and down.
So it's not an invention. It's just your hand. It's more of a technique, you might say.
All right, if we can get serious here, I do have another, I think, fairly good idea for this, and it involves. So this one I think is maybe a little bit of a downgrade, because I can imagine like a hand crank / bike pedal solution being available to you in several different postures. But let's say that your favorite part of chewing gum is doing it face down on the ground. So what I'm imagining is you're on one of those machines at the gym, where it's like the elliptical motion, where you're like walking, which is, slightly similar, I would say, to bike pedals. Except if you imagine them just going up and down, and then you imagine kind of like putting your laying on the ground face down, but then looking up and resting your chin on one of the pedals as somebody else pushes the other pedal up and down for exercise. So it's kind of like you get to chew gum and your friend gets to exercise. The only downside being that they only get to exercise one leg at a time, and you have to be laying face down on the ground.
Well, you don't have to be laying face down on the ground. Your face has to be up. So you really have to be lying on your stomach with your head up.
I mean, I suppose if you made the exercise machine tall enough, you could be sitting or even standing. That just might be very difficult for the other person to manage.
Yeah, and what if instead of the elliptical thing, it was a crank?
Yeah, so instead of having to stand and only work one leg, maybe the other person was on some sort of frame with pedals attached to it.
Okay, I'm thinking, obviously we've talked about a lot of ways that your mouth could be moved for you.
Right, yes.
But what if there's a way to just make it easier for you to move your own mouth?
Okay.
I'm thinking we actually have some innovation on the gum itself. Maybe the gum is actually incredibly dense, so gravitationally pulls your mouth together to make it easier to chew.
It's super dense, but it's also still soft, so that you can chew into it.
And chewy, right. Yeah. So that would obviously be an innovation, since we don't really have any material like that right now.
Imagine a material so advanced that as it's uncompressed, it becomes denser. And then as you bite down on it, as a force of the gravitational force that it's exerting on you, it becomes less massive, actually. So that
it actually gets negative mass,
so that it
forces
your mouth apart. So all you have to do is insert it in your mouth, and then you will automatically start doing the chewing motion.
Until you die, pretty much. Yeah, there's no way to stop it.
I mean, maybe you could tie a string onto it and then pull. But then when you pull on it, you would kind of, assuming the string is looped around, if you pull on it, I imagine that kind of compressing the object in an outward direction, which of course would exert an inward force. So you'd
well, it would cause the gum to become negative mass and repel the string that was around it.
So you'd swallow it because the string is no longer there.
Well, yeah. So maybe that one's not the best idea. but I feel like there's some, idea that somebody could think of like that's like the seed for a good idea.
So here's the invention. It's just what we described, except there's a switch on the gum that you can flick with your tongue, and then it turns back into normal gum. And the benefit is, when it's normal gum, you can still chew it if you want to, or you could take it out.
Uh-huh. Okay, I like that idea, except for it may be hard to like control a switch with your tongue. So what if you had a crank on the outside?
No. I feel like we put the crank bit a little bit too far. Let's get serious.
Sorry. Yeah, that one was obviously a joke. All the other ones were serious.
The switch would instead be attached to an elliptical machine that your friend would control.
Yeah. All right. I think that we've come up with some good inventions. I think that we've almost spent as much time on the actual podcast as the introduction.
Let's hope so.
Hour 15. So yeah, we've spent more time on the actual podcast at this point, or close to it. So, what do you say we end it here?
I say that's a great idea. We have certainly gone on long enough.
Let us know what you thought about this idea of us making inventions, since it's not something that we normally do, whether you liked it or did not like it. Let us know if you had any ideas for inventions for any of the problems that we said. Or even if you have a problem that you need us to come up with an invention for. If any of that at all applies to you, send us an email, which can be found on our website that Nathan mentioned before. It can be found on the description of this video or on the channel. And that is all for today. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm Alex.
I'm Alex.
And this has been
Joel.